I designated a 501c3 charity. I have a ongoing, dialogue with them about, the money they're gonna get when I eventually die. And it's fulfilling. It's a way to to see something grow and feel like I've accomplished something. But in terms of the question, okay, what's your net worth target? It doesn't need to be any more than what it is right now. I think I do still think I have this innate, like, subconscious drive to always be saving and be frugal. And that's something that I need to work on, always. I don't need to always pinch pennies, especially if I'm giving away if I have leftover money at the end of the month, I'm giving away. I don't need to continuously being pinch money or comparing prices, shopping at dollar stores. There's something in me that has a sick, like, obsession with always, saving and trying to get the absolute best price. The milestone that also becomes anticlimactic. So life is more than a number, definitely. And it shouldn't it's not the end all be all.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 318. Stace, how are you doing?
Doing great over here.
Awesome. Well, quick update. We told everybody we're having twins and appreciate the nice messages. Also thought I'd throw out there that, former co-host Clark and his wife just had their first little baby boy a few weeks ago. Everybody's healthy and home. So excited for him. It was a great time catching up with him the last couple of weeks on becoming a father. And it's awesome. I thought I'll start reading some reviews from the last couple of weeks. These first couple come from Spotify, actually. This was a manual. This is the best podcast ever. Keep bringing the information. Blaine said, one of the best episodes yet. Thank you. And Amy said, another excellent episode. So much common sense wisdom from this guest. A must listen for all of your younger listeners. So much easier to make it than to keep it. #truth.
Many ways to win. Love the unique paths to financial success. Recent episode with Brian was best of the year. I could have listened to his story for another hour. And last one, just love your podcast. Congratulations on you and your wife expecting twins. How exciting. I listened to the podcast from the beginning, and please keep up the great work. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Appreciate all those reviews. If you haven't left one yet, go ahead and do so, either iTunes or Spotify now. I'll leave a rating and review for us. Appreciate it. It helps us continue to grow the show and get new millionaire interviewees. We've had a pretty good response on those answering the call here that have a net worth over $5 million. So you know what that means. I get a couple emails of those wanting more than 10 and some decamillionaires. So throw that call out there. If you're a decamillionaire and interested to be on the show, send us an email. Or even if you're not, but especially if you're a decamillionaire, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We'll start to put the schedule here together for 2024. So some exciting times ahead. On today's episode, we have Casey, and she has a net worth around $5 million. She started in VC and then went into the military. So I had a career in the military for a few years and then done all sorts of jobs since then. About a third of her wealth is in traditional retirement accounts. About a third is in a pension that she gets from the military. And then about a third of it is in a trust that she uses to fund some of the things that she wants to donate to, but then also how she structures that around some of her personal giving and some other things. So get into a great conversation with her, specifically about trust, and probably in more depth than we ever have in this particular episode around trust and how she's utilized that, specifically a charitable trust for her to carry out some of the things. She's single, no kids, has a cat, and so this may resonate with some of our listeners who are single and never been married. So without any further delay, let's get into the episode with Casey. Casey, do you want to just give us a little about your background and what you're up to now?
Sure. I've had lots of different careers in my life. So I've worked primarily in finance. I started out after college in finance, and then I joined the military. I was there for 6 years, and have had some IT jobs as well over the past 20 or so years. Right now, I'm at about have about 1.8 million in retirement accounts, split about 2/3 traditional and 1/3 Roth. I also have been for the past 10 years receiving a military pension. And if one were to value that as an asset, it would be about $1.6 million with certain assumptions about how long I'll live and the discount rate and the cost of living adjustment and all that. Also, about 2 years ago, I decided to get rid of all my taxable assets, and I established a charitable trust where I get to continue to manage those assets day to day through my options trading, but it's technically no longer mine. And it's fulfilling because I can see that money grow and know it's going to a good cause, and I actually get a annual income distribution from that trust. So it's kind of a win-win. And I haven't been working full time for the 2 years. I've been focusing on my trading and other pursuits, building a home right now. I'm thinking about getting into maybe finding something that I really enjoy, but for now I'm just loving having some freedom. So
Wow. So total net worth, we include what's in the trust because I know that's
it's about
essentially
1.5 right now. Yeah, so
still an asset. I mean, what's the total net worth now if you include
about
that?
five if you were to include that. Yeah.
Wow. So let's back up here. The 1.8 that's in your retirement accounts, what is that invested in and kind of get into the breakup? How did that come about?
Well, I mean, from my early 20s, like my first job, I've always maxed out my retirement accounts. It's kind of just been, I haven't even had a second thought to it. It's always been kind of just automatic for me. A good story is in 2003, my first job out of college, I was an analyst at a VC firm in Seattle and dramatically underpaid. And we were rolled into another VC firm for half of the year, July through December. I had this was part of his 401k plan where the employer matched dollar for dollar up to the annual limit, which was 12,000 at the time. And my for 6 months of salary, again, underpaid 22-year-old was like 18 or 20,000 something. It was really super low. But I knew that if I put in 12,000 to the 401k, I would get an extra 12. So I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. I made it happen because, why wouldn't you? For the venture partners who are making $250,000, that was small change to them. For me, it was a lot of money. So I've always maxed out my retirement plans. When I was in high school, I remember it was in the 90s and I was in Boston. So Fidelity was big. So I remember dropping off a check to Fidelity for, Spartan, Magellan or whatever in high school, because that was just something that I did. I don't know where necessarily it came from, but so that's kind of how my traditional and Roth IRA. I've always did the historically 401ks were traditional, and then I could supplement that with the Roth contributory Roth IRA. Always max it out on January 2nd. It was just always the check was in there. And over time, they started to do Roth 401ks. And so you read up on the benefits of doing, because you don't have the RMDs and you get the, you're not taxed on it when you take it out. And that seems like a good idea to me. But now with this new strategy of saying, I don't care, I don't need this money for myself, let's give it away. I wouldn't have done the Roth. I would have kept on doing the traditional contribution because you got the upfront deduction. And if those RMDs, if you direct them to a charity, you don't pay any tax. So I would have rather had the upfront tax deduction and done 100% traditional and not Roth if I had known that I'm just gonna give it all away anyways. But so that's how it. So and historically, when I was employed and not spending time on options trading, I was just doing first it was mutual funds and then it was ETFs. I worked at a wealth management firm in my mid-20s where I was doing the trading, basic asset allocation. Most of long-term returns come from asset allocation and fees. So, we put our clients in mutual funds and ETFs and some dabbling of a, core stock portfolio. But that was kind of, Morningstar. I mean, that was kind of how I learned investing in my mid-20s. So that's what I did when I was working full time and not having time to actively manage my investments. And that's how it grew over time. Just got the compounding and putting in lots of money at an early age. Of course, I mean, we've all seen the charts of when you start when you're 20 versus when you start when you're 40. It makes a difference over the decades. So, but in the last 2 years, since I haven't been working and I've been doing options trading, my retirement accounts have been basically doing options on S&P 500 futures. It is pretty low maintenance. I might open a position at a 45-day expiration, and then over time I'll manage it. And as it gets to 7 to 14 days to expiration, I'll roll it into the next month or so. So it's very low maintenance. Futures options are great in terms of for retirement accounts because they're not marginable. You get more bang for the buck basically in futures options. The buying power that each trade has, in terms of the maximum profit relative to the buying power that it takes up, is better for futures options. And also there's this, on taxable accounts, you get a better tax treatment for futures options or any futures contracts versus equity options or equity positions. So retirement accounts, S&P 500 futures options. And then the trust, I do a little more interesting things because that account is marginable. I do equity options also in the Charitable Trust. So
interesting. So I want to go back to a couple of things. So the retirement accounts, for the most part, have been built through traditional compounding and everything else. And I know will get into kind of the option strategies that you've kind of started to take route with as time has gone on. I want to back up though. Military pension, you put a value of that at 1.6, and it's something we've had a couple conversations on the show. How do you think about that pension? And, for you personally, is that pension indefinite for your whole life, or is there an endpoint to it, or does it matter where you live or anything like that?
It's definitely definite for life. So you might heard some veterans talk about VA disability, where they get a check from the VA. It's based on their disability percentage. And unless you're total and permanent, the VA could do evaluation and they could reduce it or take it away. So you wouldn't include that as an asset at all. However, people who put 20 years of time, 20 or more years serving in the military, they get a pension. They get it produces a 1099-R at the end of the year. And that is based on their last 36 months of pay that they've served. So again, traditionally it's 20 years. And that check is from the DoD, not from the VA. And there is a condition where if you have a medical retirement, you can get a full pension. So the check from the DoD, that's indefinite for life. If I can get something where the DoD said, yes, this is good for the service member's entire life. And arguably it's more of a sure thing than Social Security because, as we all know, Social Security might be reduced sometime in the future. But no one's going to mess with military retirement. That would be political suicide.
For sure.
So I only had 6 years of active duty service, but I still get the military pension. It's based on my last 36 months of pay is going to be less than if I had served 20 years. But I was an officer, so I don't think it's fair. But officers get paid a lot more than enlisted folks. So it's right now my monthly check is $3,700 a month that I get. Part of that is tax-free. There is a carve-out part of that is related to my VA disability. But so $1,300 is VA disability, tax-free. $2,400 is from the DoD. I get a 1099-R, and that's fully taxable. So I think it's more useful to see it from an income perspective than an asset perspective. Yeah. But if I were to plug in my numbers to some website that calculates pension assets, okay, what's your discount rate? What's your cost of living adjustment? How long are you going to live? And then they would spit out the number and then say 1.6 million. So that was what I did.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you getting into that and obviously appreciate your service in the military. Did you do that after you were working in wealth management or was it in concurrence with or before?
So I worked in venture capital and wealth management for 5 years after I graduated college, and then I served my time in the military. It was active duty for 6
Interesting.
years after my finance time. So
Why did you
um,
decide to make that switch going from venture capital and the investment markets to the military? That's kind of a different transition. I feel like it's usually the other way around.
well, I mean, yes, there are a lot of service members who then go into investment manager, financial services after they leave. But I don't know. I'm a risk taker by nature. I'm kind of a little bit short attention span. I'm always willing to try something out new. If I had started out in the military, I probably would have been a little bit more risk averse in terms of wanting something that's stable. Or but because I started out in the civilian jobs, I was willing to do any knowing that your employment is at will. That if you don't work hard and but you also provide some freedom that you could try something out, and if it doesn't work out, you can so. But so the military, that was my longest job, actually, was in the military because I had that 4-year commitment. But I thought, I had never known anyone who was in the military. I wanted, thinking that, mission, purpose, those things, it's very different. It's, of course, those are just ideas, and it's very different when when you do an actual job. And I don't regret it at all. I had great experiences during my military time, but then it was time to move on. So then, and the medical retirement, that was something that I didn't choose. I didn't initiate, but when it turns out I probably wouldn't have chose to stay in for 20 years anyways. So.
Casey, that's really interesting. I think Jace clued in on exactly. I thought that was, very unique that you went from, a civilian career back to the military career. So that's very, very interesting. I want to go back to one comment that you went through really quick, which was back in high school that you invested in Fidelity in high school. So I think that's what you said. How did you even know to do that in high school? I had no concept of finance in high school, or at least no one taught me. So where did that come from? And obviously you went to college. Did you go to college for finance as well?
No, I went to, my high school is actually consistently decade after decade ranked the best high school in the country. It happens to be a private school, but I resist the association that just because you charge tuition, you're going to get a better education. I don't think that's the case at all. So it's, independently, private and public combined, it's the best high school in the country, decade after decade. So I was accepted early decision to Yale. Most of my classmates went to the Ivy Leagues. I didn't finish. I didn't start Facebook either. But so but I finished because I like to, again, short attention span. So you can't major in finance at the Ivy Leagues. It's not it's you can only pick a liberal arts degree. So for the most part. So but no, I ended up graduating from a Buddhist college in Boulder, studying contemplative psychology. And of course, you can't do anything with that. So then I got a job as a financial analyst at a venture capital firm. Sure. Right. Right after the .com crash. It all makes sense. Not really, but so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, philosophy majors are being recruited more and more heavily at VC firms. So you may have just been ahead of your time in that regard.
Something, I think that might be something AI related. I don't know. Sounds like it. Yeah. How to program the AI. Yeah.
Deep thinking. Yeah. Deep thinkers. Right. So how did you know to buy a stock in high school then? You didn't make it your career?
Oh, well, I mean, I bought a mutual fund, but I was living in Boston. I mean, I was upper middle class, professional parents. I don't 100% know. It was a long time ago, but we went to Fidelity office and I dropped off a check, and so it must have been just common household thing that came up. It must have been. I wish I knew, but I have a memory of that.
It's the branding on those buildings downtown, right?
Yeah, maybe. So did you did you start? When did you start trading? Like, did you you were at a VC firm? Like, when did your time and like you're obviously a very deep finance expertise. So where did your finance training begin, basically?
So I would say on VC, we did we reviewed business plans and did like valuation analyses, and it doesn't really necessarily map very well to, what are you going to do in the public markets. So I think I would say I just put money in it, before ETFs were really big, you just put money in a mutual funds. It wasn't until my job in wealth management that I think that I learned about asset allocation, where I would prepare efficient frontiers and, get risk tolerances for our clients and actually prepare the portfolios and then manage those portfolios and screen mutual funds and a little bit we were doing like the spiders back then, I think, and individual bonds or bond funds and,
Mhm.
learning that's unless you have a lot of money, you probably shouldn't do individual securities because you just don't get enough breadth of asset allocation is 80% of your returns. So that was something that I kind of learned in that wealth management job. And so, I remember I had an account with a discount brokerage called Brownco that were then bought by E-Trade. And I was grandfathered into $5 commissions, which that was like super cheap those days. Like, whoa, $5 commissions. Of course, now they're free, but so I think, as long as I every year put the max in, regardless of how long I worked at a company, I would always max it out. Always put in my Roth contribution on January 2nd of every single year, even though you have until April 15th the next year. Because I knew that if you put it in earlier, you get, assuming that the market goes up, you're going to get, more out of that. So that alone, I think, and putting, just a diversified basket of funds, and only okay, you got your large, mid, small, domestic, value, growth, blends, you got your foreign, you got your real assets, you got your fixed income. Those are all things in my mid-20s through my wealth management job those were things that were kind of instilled in me, and nothing fancy. It wasn't. I was maybe look at my funds once a quarter, quarterly review, but not day-to-day trading like I've been doing the last few years. So
Got it. Very, very interesting. So, okay. So my last question is kind of a progression. The charitable trust. Can you explain the progression of that and where you came up with that and how it is currently formed?
yes, I can do that. So in 2020, around when COVID started, I was working full time at a nice, cushy defense contractor IT job in Washington, D.C. Nice salary and all that. And because I don't have to work because of my military pension, it makes me just very fickle in terms of, I don't want to do this. I don't want the bureaucracy, red tape or whatever. Let's leave. So I did. And because of COVID, where there's, I don't really like working remotely anyways. So I was like, well, I'm just there's all those sort of upheavals. So, well, why don't I just find something new to do? And I've always been very quantitative and kind of data focused. So with options trading being kind of very probabilities and statistics based, I thought it was a great fit for me to go deep dive into options trading. So I did that. What I discovered at the end of 2020, when I was doing my tax return, and I hadn't been making quarterly estimated tax payments, that, oh crap, my AGI is actually a lot higher than it was when I was working, even though I only had 2 months of salary in 2020. For the full year, my AGI was higher than what it was when I was working full time at, cushy IT contractor job. So I said, well, I like seeing my assets grow, but I don't like paying taxes. How can I fix that? I've already maxed out all my retirement, all my tax shelter, I already maxed them all out. So I don't, it's not this charitable trust. It's not necessarily out of sheerly altruistic motives. If it were, I would just give the money away. I would never see it again. But if you create this charitable remainder trust, an irrevocable charitable remainder trust, once you make contributions to this trust, I had to hire an attorney to create this legal entity where I'm the grantor. I contribute money into this trust, into this vehicle. Once I do so, I can't claw it back. It's no longer part of my estate. And as a result, I'm able to get a big tax deduction for the contributions that I make to this trust. I designate a remainder beneficiary, a 501c3 charity, who will get the assets after I die. I am designated as the lifetime or the income beneficiary. So every year I receive an annual distribution from this trust, minimum 5% of the assets, up to 50%. I don't really want the distribution that I receive from the trust is ordinary income, or it's whatever income. I get a K1, it's whatever income, whatever, whether it's long term or short term, it's whatever the source gains come from when it's in the trust. Anyway, so I'd rather not have that, because I guess the whole point was to not pay taxes in the first place. So I contribute it back into the trust. But so I am the income beneficiary, lifetime income beneficiary, remainder beneficiary. They get the money after I die. It's no longer mine. I can't technically include it in my assets, but I manage it every single day. I trade every single day in the trust, side by side with my IRA accounts, and it's probably about 1.5 million right now. And so with a 5% distribution, that's a 75,000 additional income I get every year, and as it grows, that number will increase. Currently, I'm plowing that right back into the trust after I receive. But it could be, if I, could be spending money in the future. Right now, I'm building a log cabin, so I can. That's a couple years distributions that I could spend it on. So, what else? And so when I established it in 2021, because of the CARES Act, which was effective in 2020 and 2021, normally the maximum deduction you can get for a cash contribution to a 501c3 charity is 60% of your AGI. But in 2020 and 2021, because of the CARES Act, that was increased to 100% of your AGI. So I contribute $1 million in 2021 to this trust. I don't get $1 million tax deduction. There's a net present value calculation that determines what contribution you make, what your actual deduction is. So I got a $200,000 tax deduction for the $1 million initial contribution, which was good, because I had all this other. I only established a trust halfway into the year, so I still had 6 months of tax inefficient gains for my taxable account trading. So yes, and I designated a 501c3 charity. I have a ongoing dialogue with them about the money they're gonna get when I eventually die. And it's fulfilling. It's a way to to see something grow and feel like I've accomplished something. But in terms of the question, okay, what's your net worth target? It doesn't need to be any more than what it is right now. I think the people underestimate the value of having that military pension and what it can, the freedom and security it can give for people, as long as you have a modest lifestyle where you're not going to spend more than I've never been a spender. I've always been a saver. So and I've never felt like I've had to deny myself anything that I wanted to do. So
yeah, appreciate you getting into the details there. I don't think that we've had very many discussions, if any, that I can remember about charitable remainder trust. So appreciate you getting. I mean, we could probably go several episodes deep into trust in general and how they function and how they work, but appreciate you kind of giving a surface level what that looks like and how it's utilized in your personal life. I want to touch on something. So you've got the pension, you've got the retirement accounts. Are you trading the retirement accounts as well?
I am, yeah. So I have 3 accounts that I manage, and one of that trust is a different tax ID, but the brokerage that I use, they're able to basically have a master account where I'm basically the manager of that, so they can roll them up into one dashboard. I see my traditional IRA, my Roth IRA, and my inherited trust, all side by side in my trading application. So I do different strategies in those, because of I mentioned that retirement accounts are not marginable, so like some things just don't make sense to do in those accounts. But yes, I trade all three side by side.
Cool. Do you have any debt?
I have a mortgage. So another, I think one of the questions you like to ask is stupid mistakes you've made. The stupid mistakes I make repeatedly is buying property because, I generally believe that rent is a waste of money, but it's only a waste of money if you're going to stay in the property that you buy and not, want to, leave and, lose money on commission if you don't, hold it long enough. So I do that repeatedly. Earlier this year, I think I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about, like, oh, well, where can you still get a 5% mortgage these days on a 30-year fix? Buy new construction because the builders are offering, D.R. Horton, all those guys are offering, they're buying down rates through these if you use their preferred lender. And I bought a D.R. Horton new construction earlier this year. They paid me $3,000 at the closing table instead of, you usually have to pay money closing costs. And so, they bought the rate down to 5%. And it was a stupid, it's not the right home for me, but now I have this huge mortgage. I'm renting it out, and the rental income more than covers all of my, principal, interest, HOA, taxes, all of that, plus $500. So I'm an accidental landlord. I don't generally.
So you bought this house without even moving into it?
Oh no! I mean, I lived in it for a few months, and then I'm like, man, this isn't the right place for me. So that's why. So now I'm building the 400 square foot log cabin in the same area, but just I'm renting out the place that I bought, and so I can't. It doesn't make sense for me to sell it right now because the builder is still selling new units at a fixed price. So I have to wait at least a year to get my money back after commissions. But until then, I'm covering my bills, right? So that's the only debt. I mean, a mortgage debt. I fully take advantage of credit. You have people in your show who's like, oh, I don't believe in credit. Well, credit cards complete. I've never paid a cent of credit card interest in my entire life, and yet I fully take advantage of a 2% cash back on all your purchases. And knowing that you're getting, assuming you have a 30-day billing cycle and a 25-day grace period, up to 55 days of free money. Why not? If you're smart and responsible, I've never paid any interest in my mortgage, credit card interest in my life. There's good interest, but credit card interest, of course, is bad interest. I've never paid any of that, but of course, I put everything on credit. Why have an immediate hit to my bank account when I can just defer it to later? Time value of money. It's based on time value of money. So, anyways,
for sure.
So that's the mortgage is the only true debt that I have. That's on my balance sheet repeatedly, which I'm gonna, But this house that I'm building, which it's only about 100,000 because it's 400 square feet. But it's like I said, it's coming out of. I'm funding it through the trust distribution, which is that's a good thing to have, but. In the future, I'm only going to do it once and hopefully live there forever. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Do you keep very much cash on hand?
No, pretty much zero. Just I have a spreadsheet. Okay, here's all the bills I'm going to have to pay every month, and all my net cash flow I contribute into the trust. Everything, 100%. I don't have any taxable accounts that I trade. So taxable assets, I intentionally keep those as close to zero as possible.
Interesting. And if you don't mind, I think it's probably helpful for context for our listeners. You're single, no dependents or anything like that, correct?
Yes. So I don't generally believe in life insurance at all. Single with a cat. And I think I'm able to be more, I guess, minimalist with my lifestyle. Like if I had the 2.5 kids and the significant other and the picket fence, I think I would be tugged into those, like, okay, let's keep up with the Joneses. Let's get the German car. Like I had a conversation with a coworker about like his German car. Like I drive a used Hyundai Accent that I bought with a salvage title. Like I just don't care about material things. Maybe if I had the kids and significant other, all these pressure, maybe I would, but for what it's worth, I mean, of course, there's probably something I'm missing out by not having, having a family because of course there's good things that come with a family. But I'm able to, make very prudent, responsible decisions about my money because it's just me. So
For sure. Let me ask, what do you splurge on? Or is there anything you splurge on?
probably, I guess I probably spend too much out on like prepared foods and stuff like that. My food bill is probably too high on a monthly basis. I guess I don't really have very much patience. I'm a good cook. I choose to like have a succumb to temptation about eating out and getting takeout or delivery or something like that. So that's probably the only thing really that I splurge on. So
Brad can resonate with that extremely well. He's a foodie. I always get pictures from him showing all the new places he's been. But when you live in California, I guess it's inevitable, right?
oh yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of food or restaurant or anything that's kind of the go-to?
I really like sushi. Yeah, sushi is addictive for me. So
Okay.
I try to get like sushi every day.
That's right. Probably carp from the It's probably carp from the river, right? Those jumping carp.
Well, yeah. I don't know where they're getting their fish from. Who knows? Maybe I don't want to know. But oh no. Well, like you know that stuff like the really like in lesser grade sushi where they have this thing called crab where it's not really crab, it's a crab with a K. And you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. No, it's a crime. So, but
That's funny. So we touched a little bit the fact that you feel like, from a net worth standpoint, like you've won the game, like there's nothing else, in terms of what you need for your lifestyle between the military pension and what you've got in your assets. What is it like for someone who's kind of transitioned to that from emotional and a mental state as you have, that you're there? Do you ever fear running out of money at all? Or is it, I'm there and I'm not worried about it because I can manage this for the rest of my life?
I don't really fear running out of money. I know that the check I'm getting from my pension right now. So one potential fear that people have who don't have secure healthcare is, as I age, am I going to have unexpected healthcare costs or assisted living, or so worry about the increasing cost of healthcare. That's something that I won't have to worry about either. So if I'm okay with getting all my treatment at the VA, everything is completely free. It's completely free. So that's another huge consideration. I've worked in financial planning, and one of the things that you worry about is you counsel your clients to worry about is the increasing cost of healthcare. Do you want to do some sort of like LTC rider on a life insurance plan or some sophisticated things to account for that? But if you have VA, at least 50% VA disability, in theory, all your care can be free at the VA. So that's one thing that makes me less worrisome about running out of money. So like that's one of medical bills is a big thing. It's hard for me to really foresee where I would have any unexpected expense that would cause me to run out of money, cause me to not where my pension plus the trust distribution wouldn't be adequate to cover all my bills. It's hard to imagine a scenario of that. I will say that when I was my medical retirement from the military was in 2013, and at first you feel this like sense of freedom, like oh wow, now I don't have to work for anybody else. So this overwhelming sense of freedom. But then you think it's going to make things easier, but it doesn't make things easier at all, because then it forces you to ask tough questions about what do you really want. If you're not forced to work to bring home a paycheck, what are your passions, what are your interests, what do you really want to do with your life? And you might still have in the back of your head these voices that are saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. So it is a constant like psychological like battle about like silencing those voices that tell you still need to achieve. And because those voices as Americans are taught to us, to me at least, from early childhood. So still need to, what are you worth if you aren't your job? The first question people ask you is, oh, what do you do? And so if unless you're confident with where you with not having to say this is my job, then it can cause lots of insecurity. So it's been an interesting interesting path for me, I think.
Yeah, Casey, that's a really good point. One of the things I have a problem with in the fire community, right, is there's this big pedestal, and I'm probably going to get or Jace is probably going to get blasted after this because fire people are super militant about themselves. But there's this big pedestal placed on being frugal and retiring early, and then there's financial independence and everything. But what happens when you get to the number, right? And I listen to all the same financial podcasts. I listen to fire stuff. I'm all the forums, but like you hit the number and then what, right? I think that's really what you're talking about. Like you achieve freedom and then it's like, okay, well now what, right? And so it's like, there's a different talent to spending money as there is to saving money, right? So some people become professional savers, but then they don't really know what to do with the money they have. How do you feel about that? Like you've achieved financial independence, now what? How did you answer that question?
Yeah. I mean, I do still think I have this innate, like subconscious drive to always be saving and be frugal. And that's something that I need to work on, always, I don't need to always pinch pennies, especially if I'm giving away if I have leftover money at the end of the month, I'm giving away. I don't need to continuously being pinch penny or comparing prices, shopping at dollar stores. There's something in me that has a sick like obsession with always saving and trying to get the absolute best price. But yes, and it's you have to value yourself and your happiness enough to be willing to spend money on things that you enjoy and that make you happy, and discovering that as you go along. And this number that fell into my lap, it's not like even though I had this, I was always put money into my retirement accounts. That's more than half of my net worth. It was I really kind of arrived or knew that I didn't need to worry when I was received this military pension, which I didn't earn at all. I didn't earn that, so it's not like it's something magical. You snap your fingers and it's like voila, things change. They don't. So I don't know. And maybe you're always going to be moving the needle back to the goalpost back to the milestone that also becomes anticlimactic. So life is more than a number, definitely, and it shouldn't become. It's not the end all be all. So.
I appreciate you sharing those thoughts. It's a topic that's come up a little bit more recently, more frequently. One, as Brad mentioned, some of these super savers and making that transition to I can allow myself to spend or do things differently than maybe I did for a long time. But then you get into conversation, fear can be powerful depending on where it comes from, about possibly running out. And I appreciate you sharing kind of your thoughts and kind of emotions around those subjects.
And I think you can have a quantitative perspective on it. If you need for peace of mind to say, okay, here's my budget in the worst possible scenario, do some sensitivity analysis of the absolute worst possible scenario, and you still have more than what you need on the worst rainy day. So if the numbers could give you that peace of mind to convince you, yes, I can take this vacation. Yes, I could buy this new gadget or whatever. Then that could be your security blanket to kind of appease the fear, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive meal out that you've paid for?
Oh, not necessarily meal out, but I ordered Maine lobsters delivered to me and when I was living in North Dakota. So Yeah, being a New England girl, I missed my Maine lobsters. They arrived live and in a freezer pack, and it was a couple, it was $100 or something like that. So, but it was good.
Hey, it's better than the lobster I had one time where my wife and I were trying to have a special Valentine's dinner and we didn't have that much money and bought them in the grocery store and they're terrible and we ended up ordering pizza. It's a terrible story, but at any rate, glad your
They're probably
lobster
from
was
Nova
good.
Scotia if they're in the grocery store and they're like, no, not good.
Oh man,
It's the thought that counts, Jace. It's the thought that counts. You ordered rotten lobster for your.
anytime I hear lobster, that's exactly what comes to my mind, and my wife and I joke about it now. But at any rate, we settled for five. I think back then it was a $5 pizza. What is the most expensive trip or vacation that you've been on?
Oh, I just decided for once to take a cruise. I think it was like taking a cruise by yourself is twice as expensive. So it was I don't know, $800 something like that. So I'm never gonna do it again. I didn't have fun. So, but
Okay.
oh, but no, I also went to Thailand, and that was airfare to and from Thailand. That was $1,000. But yeah, those are probably the two.
Yeah, once you get to
trips.
Thailand, it's pretty inexpensive. But
I was on a budget tour, so yeah,
Okay.
it was. Yeah, I mean, it's a low cost of living there, but you could spend a lot of money. But what my expenses
sure.
once I got there, it was only the airfare that was expensive. So
Yep. What's the most expensive piece of clothing, whether it's pants, shirts, shoes, that you've purchased? Jewelry,
geesh,
anything.
I buy things like from like ThreadUp, like online consignment stores, or like used Walmart or cheap Walmart stuff. So, geesh. I mean, I can't even. In recent years, I just don't do that at all. Decades ago, I used to do like J. Crew. I used to actually pay full price for things. I just don't see the need to do that anymore. So,
Okay. What is the most fun that you've had with money?
this may sound silly, but I really have fun with having trading wins. I don't know that's not really using my money, but it's I don't know if does that address your question. Like I love trading. I love saying as that is that not where you were getting at?
Oh yeah, whatever's
Okay. Yeah. So
whatever
like if I see
most fun you've had.
like I have tons of fun with that. It might sound a little bit sad, but yeah, I love. I think I found my if I ever I'm planning on at some point going back to work. I'm gonna make sure that whatever I do it still gives me time to trade on a daily basis. Some sort of shift work or whatever that will continue trading that because that's always going to be my love. I think so.
Nice. What is the craziest thing that you've ever done to earn money?
Crazy thing to earn money?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Just wait till some of the new episodes come out and what you hear that people have done to earn some money.
Okay, this is I was employed as something where it was like my employer say, your employer tells you to do something, and you're like, are you serious? You really want me to do that? So this was when Yellow Pages were a thing. So it was a Yellow Page ad company, and we, as a temp, they said, okay, you're going to need an X-Acto knife and a glue stick. And I'm like, what the? I said, each individual ad on the Yellow Pages, you need to, and it's both sides of the page. You need to cut it out and glue stick it onto each own separate page. And you go through multiple phone books because, again, you got to do both sides. So that was something where I was like, are you really paying me to do that? And is there a better way to do that? So I define that as crazy.
I love this question. It's getting some good answers. This is great. What's a closely held belief that you've changed your mind on recently?
Oh, geez. I tend to be very binary, like good or bad, black or white. Either you agree with everything or you agree with nothing about someone. I've started to become more flexible. I think living in East Tennessee here, where they're just different types of people. I mean, I grew up a completely different culture in New England, and maybe it's okay if someone doesn't share something that you hold closely as a strong principle. Maybe you can still get along with them and be friends with them, and not agree with everything. So I've started to maybe become a bit more flexible in as I age, I guess.
Okay. What's a key lesson that you learned from childhood?
I mean, this may sound trite, but I've through my childhood, I strongly valued education, independence, and hard work. Those are values that were instilled in me from a very early age. And I guess critical thinking, questioning everything, like, and not always having your parents be there. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I see parents these days, and what I interpret as being way too involved in their kids' life, where they're not helping their kids. So, for better or for worse, I didn't have that. So, critical thinking, questioning everything, doing things yourself, figuring out things in yourself. I think those have served me well throughout my life from childhood.
Awesome. What one piece of advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
I mean, again, it's a textbook answer, but the power of compounding, just putting as much as you can into investments from a very early age, and just have it be, if you don't have time to pay attention to it, do some sort of autopilot, like, one and done fund that, with a low expense ratio that covers the entire market. So that, if you and of course your tax advantage investments, do that first and max those out. Never turn down an employer match. Basic things like that. And don't, pay down any bad interest. Those are basic financial lessons that, some people might not learn, but I think they're to you or I, they might seem second nature.
Awesome. That's Casey with a net worth of $5 million. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, Brad.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.